Hello, you're watching A News Today from Baku. I'm Leila Masimwa. Here are the top stories. Following an agreement brokered by the United States and France, Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah started a ceasefire. U.S. President-elect Trump's tariffs would hurt U.S. economy, Mexican President Sheinbaum warns. Leaders, civil society groups and delegates from over 100 countries gathered in Portugal for UN Civilizations Forum. A ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah took effect early this morning, following an agreement brokered by the United States and France. The deal aims to end 14 months conflict that escalated after the Gaza war.
The ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah militants officially began today, marking a 2-month pause in hostilities. It requires Hezbollah to withdraw from southern Lebanon, while Israeli forces must pull back to their side of the border. Oversight will be led by an international panel headed by the United States. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu emphasized that any violation of the ceasefire by Hezbollah would be met with a forceful response. Speaking to the nation, Netanyahu expressed his readiness to implement the deal and announced plans to bring the ceasefire to his full cabinet for approval after it's endorsed by the Security Cabinet.
This evening, I will bring a ceasefire outline for the cabinet's approval. The length of the ceasefire depends on what happens in Lebanon. In full cooperation with the United States, we retain complete military freedom of action. Should Hezbollah violate the agreement or attempt to rearm, we will strike.
Hezbollah did not participate in any direct talks for the truce, with Lebanese parliamentary speaker Nabi Berri mediating on its behalf. In Beirut, residents expressed mixed emotions, with relief tempered by doubt. Some emphasized the need for stability and called for the Lebanese state to play a stronger role in maintaining peace.
We support a ceasefire. We care about a ceasefire, but one without a fuss, without any fraud on resolutions and legitimacy. This is what we care about. Of course, we care about a ceasefire as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, reactions from Israeli citizens reflected a mix of optimism and concern.
Well, probably the best would have been for both to be stopped at the very same time. But you can't have everything all the time. So this is not the perfect solution, for sure, but at least that.
As both nations brace for the days ahead, the ceasefire offers a tenuous hope for an end to a conflict that has claimed thousands of lives since its escalation following the Gaza war last year.
World leaders have reacted to the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hezbollah, which came into effect this morning. Many have expressed hope that the deal will bring greater stability to the region and encourage further diplomatic efforts.
United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres welcomes the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, his spokesman said. The United Nations chief hopes that this agreement can put an end to the violence, destruction and suffering the people of both countries have been experiencing, the statement said. President of United States Joe Biden expressed support for the Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire agreement, calling it good news. He added that the agreement is designed to be a permanent ceasefire.
The fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end. Will end. This is designed to be a permanent cessation of hostilities. What is left of Hezbollah and other terrorist organizations will not be allowed. Well, I emphasize, will not be allowed to threaten the security of Israel again. Over the next 60 days, the Lebanese army and state security forces will deploy and take control of their own territory once again. Hezbollah terrorist infrastructure in southern Lebanon will not be allowed to be rebuilt. And over the next 60 days, Israel will gradually withdraw its remaining forces. And civilians on both sides will soon be able to safely return to their communities.
President of France, Emmanuel Macron, welcomed the deal, calling it a new chapter.
Il importe que ce cessez-le-feu soit respecté.
A just and lasting political solution through two states is necessary. This agreement shows the way forward through political courage, which alone can offer lasting peace and security to the region.
Et ainsi aussi permettre la restauration de la souveraineté du Liban.
Vandalism that you describe, I know.
Foreign Minister of Australia, Penny Wong, also welcomed the signing of a ceasefire deal. Annalena Baerbock, Foreign Minister of Germany, added that the situation between Israel and Hezbollah is at a critical moment, offering hope for a potential resolution.
We are at a critical moment thanks to US and French mediation. A ceasefire and a political solution aligned with UN Resolution 1701 are within reach. Israel has a duty to protect civilians while defending itself. And alongside our Arabic partners, we agree that UN humanitarian organizations in Gaza must remain operational.
However, concerns remain about whether there will be another escalation if one of the sides violates the terms of the ceasefire.
After Israel's ceasefire with Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas says it is now ready for a similar deal in Gaza. That's according to a senior official in the group. However, the official accused Israel of obstructing progress. Israel has denied these allegations, citing its focus is on addressing concerns over hostages. International mediators point to disagreements from both sides as key obstacles, as well as unresolved issues over hostages. This development comes amid hopes that the Lebanon ceasefire will encourage Hamas to seek peace. In Egypt, the search continues for missing 7 after a tourist boat capsized in the Red Sea on Monday. 5 more survivors were rescued yesterday, making the total people found alive to be 33. However, authorities say 4 bodies were discovered Tuesday evening.
Cold, shaking, and terrified, these survivors have been found by a rescue team after a tourist boat sank off Egypt's Red Sea coast on Monday during rough weather conditions. The boat, named Sea Story, was carrying 31 tourists and 13 other crew members on a multi-day trip.
We appreciate it, and the reception on board,
yes,
with a warm shower, the dinner after, and all the care they took, because we were shaking with cold and shaking, and they warmed us up.
Port authorities say there was a closure of maritime traffic on Sunday after reports of waves of up to 4 meters and wind speeds reaching 34 knots. This latest rescue brings the total number of survivors to 33, following an earlier rescue mission on Monday that located 28 survivors with minor injuries. 4 bodies had been retrieved from the boat, and the search for 7 more continues. The provincial governor, Amr Hanafi, said the boat passed its latest safety inspection in March with no reported technical issues. The 5 rescued on Tuesday include 2 Belgian tourists, 1 Swiss, 1 Finn, and an Egyptian.
The Mexican peso sharply drops after US President-elect Donald Trump threatens 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico, Canada, and additional 10% tariff on goods from China. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum warns that the tariffs would disrupt the US economy and US companies in Mexico.
The Mexican peso dropped by over 2%. The sharp decline came after Trump reiterated his plan to impose a 25% tariff on products from Mexico and Canada starting in January. This move aims to pressure both nations to address US concerns over immigration and drugs. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responded with warning, stressing the potential economic damage such tariffs could cause for both sides. Local experts weighed in on the situation, with some suggesting that the US may be more dependent on Mexico than it appears.
As long as he doesn't take the presidency, you could say that Donald Trump is still campaigning, wanting to gain more trust from the US citizens. But the US may need more from Mexico than Mexico from the US because of the geographic situation. For me, it's more about generating noise with those countries, because it is not only with Mexico, not even with Canada, and it is a rather peculiar way of dealing with rather large trading partners.
Meanwhile, in Canada, Prime Minister Trudeau is calling for unity in response to the proposed tariffs. He emphasized the importance of working together to address the issue.
Bonjour tout le monde. I had a good call with Donald Trump last night again. We obviously talked about laying out the facts, talking about how the intense and effective connections between our two countries flow back and forth. We talked about some of the challenges that we can work on together. It was a good call. This is something that we can do, laying out the facts, moving forward in constructive ways. This is a relationship that we know takes a certain amount of working on, and that's what we'll do.
Such tariffs would severely affect Canada, which sends 75% of its exports to the US. Meanwhile, Mexico, the US top trade partner as of September, accounts for 15.8% of total trade.
Turkey's trade footprint has expanded significantly over the last 22 years, with the nation's share of global trade more than doubling. That's according to the Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat, who made the comment at the 20th International Trade Fair in Istanbul.
The Independent Industrialist and Businessmen's Association Expo in Turkey's Istanbul has gathered more than 2,000 participants this week. The main focus of the event is to generate around $1 billion in trade. At the conference, the Turkish Trade Minister Ömer Bolat says Turkey is the world's 17th largest economy by gross domestic product and 11th largest by purchasing power parity.
Despite the weak trajectory of the global economy, increasing protectionist tendencies and actions by some countries in international trade and industrial policies, increasing geopolitical conflicts and uncertainty in the world, the Turkish economy continues its growth trajectory in production, employment, and goods and services exports.
The 4-day Musiad Expo has attracted delegates from 115 countries and 300 companies from sectors including textiles, energy, construction, defense, and high technology. The Musiad Expo event aims to strengthen ties both with regional and global markets.
Turkey's Defense Minister Yaşar Güler revealed that the successful development of indigenous fifth-generation fighter jet Kaan has prompted a shift in U.S. perspectives regarding F-35 fighter jets.
Speaking before the Planning and Budget Commission of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey as part of the debate on the Defense Ministry's budget for 2025, Turkish Defense Minister Yaşar Güler hinted that the F-35 could be back on the negotiating table with Washington. In the late 2010s, the U.S. halted the delivery of 6 F-35 jets to Ankara, a decision sparked by Turkey's purchase of Russian S-400 defense systems. However, recent moves by Turkey to produce and potentially deploy the Kaan fighter jet, which successfully executed its maiden flight in early 2024, may have prompted Washington to revisit the deal. Turkey takes the lead in developing Kaan, with plans for mass production by 2028. The project gained international ties when the Azerbaijani Ministry of Defense Industry and Turkish Aerospace Industries signed a cooperative agreement in July 2023. Following this, reports emerged that a component of the Khan aircraft would be manufactured in Azerbaijan, signaling a collaborative future in defense technology manufacturing.
Paris Congress has removed Energy and Mines Minister Romulo Mucha following protests by small-scale miners. They're wanting a 2-year extension to a program that would let them operate legally. Many highways in Andean nation were blocked by the miners protesting in Peru's capital on Tuesday. Many of them are walking without permits. However, the government says the program has led to more illegal mining. President Dina Boluarte must now accept Congress' decision within 72 hours and appoint a new Energy and Mines Minister. The United Nations Alliance of Civilizations has kicked off its 10th Global Forum in Cascais, Portugal. Leaders, civil society groups and delegations from over 100 countries are gathering under the theme United in Peace, Restoring Trust and Reshaping the Future.
The city of Cascais has become a global hub for dialogue as the UN Alliance of Civilizations opens its milestone 10th Global Forum. Over 100 countries are represented at the 3-day event, focusing on bridging intercultural and interfaith divides. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres emphasized the power of unity in his address.
In these turbulent times, too many people are convinced that differences must define us. But the most powerful force of all is the recognition that we are more united by our common fate than divided by our distinct identities.
Portugal's President, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, also spoke, highlighting the country's role as a bridge between cultures and nations.
What makes us truly great is our universal diaspora, composed of friendly and tolerant people.
The Alliance's High Representative, Miguel Ángel Moratinos, called for peace through diversity, reminding attendees that true security can only be achieved through mutual respect and dialogue.
Security at all costs don't lead to peace, but peace may lead to collective security.
The event concluded with the adoption of the Declaration of Cascais, setting the stage for continued collaboration ahead of the next forum in Saudi Arabia in 2026.
Rome, known as a city with the greatest concentration of historical and architectural monuments in the world, remains in the heart of cultural heritage. However, many of these iconic landmarks are not as accessible due to ongoing preservation efforts and renovations work to safeguard the country's legacy for the future generations.
Italy's capital city, Rome, is internationally recognized as the city with famous historical and architectural monuments in the world, but not all of them are accessible to see as before. This year, Rome is facing many renovation plans with streets and the city squares affected by construction work. Ertuğ Rehber says it's been challenging as a tourist guide in the capital city.
It is, you can find also some nice... I think the key point is the works should finish as soon as possible so the tourists will, and it will worth it because these are, we're in front of the most famous fountain of the world, so the works should finish as soon as possible.
We were here 2 years ago, and I think the Trevi Fountain was one of the most beautiful things that we saw in Rome, and I was very excited to come back and see it. And I was a little disappointed that we didn't get the full effect of the whole Trevi Fountain. It's still beautiful, but from what I remember, it was definitely better 2 years ago.
One of the important monuments under maintenance is the Roma-era Pantheon, Baroque Navona Square, and the cinematographic Trevi Fountain. a symbol of the Italian Dolce Vita. In 2023, more than 23 million people visited Rome, and as 2025 approaches, even more visitors await as it will be the beginning of the Holy Year.
Well, that's all we have for this hour. Please do stay with us. You can also get latest news and headlines around the clock on our website. That is anews.tv, and thank you for watching.